So, tell me about yourself. I really sometimes I'll see myself out. I think we've heard enough. Thank you. If the door's just there. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to Smashing English. Before we start this video, be sure to subscribe because I make new videos all the time and I don't want you to miss any. So with that said, let's get on with the video. Job interviews. Ugh. Possibly the worst experience of any human's life. No one likes them, but most of us have to do them. And it's hard enough doing a job interview in your native language, let alone doing a job interview in your second or third or fourth language. Oh, so if that's you, I'm here to help you. I think I can give you some really useful tips to help you get that job. So let's start with my 3 top tips for job interviews. Tip number 1, don't be afraid to use contractions like I am becoming I'm, will not becoming won't, you are becoming you're. Obviously saying you are and I am is absolutely fine, but also it's fine to say I'm and you're. It's not so casual that you can't use it in a job interview. So if you feel more confident and natural using I'm and you're and we're, then use them. It's fine, trust me. Tip number 2, similar to tip number 1, you can use idioms and phrasal verbs in formal settings. I think because idioms and phrasal verbs are usually described as being casual phrases and informal sayings, people are a bit worried about them in a formal setting, but you can use these as well. Obviously it comes down to context, it depends what you're saying, and there are some idioms a bit more inappropriate than others, but a lot of these are absolutely fine to use. You don't want to sound like a robot. I would like this job. I am a good worker. I like to work as a team. I don't know what I'm doing. And my 3rd top tip, if you can, be honest about your English level. Now this one depends on the type of job interview. If the job that you are going for, it is required to have an excellent level of English, but your English is maybe not quite excellent, then fine, don't tell them. But if the job you're going for is maybe a bit more of a casual position and your English level isn't essential, you can be honest with them and say, you know, look, if I have to ask you to repeat some things, bear with me, you know, I'm still getting used to hearing English. Something like that. You know, you can make a joke about it or, you know, reference it. It's okay. Because you don't want to be in a position where the interviewer asks you a question, you don't understand the question and you just have to make up what you think the answer might be, because then it just looks like you don't understand and everything like that. So be honest with them and just say, oh, could you repeat that a little bit slower? That's absolutely fine. Okay, so those were my 3 top tips. Now I am going to give you some very common job interview questions and how to answer them. In almost every job interview I've ever been to, they have always asked me, tell me about yourself. Now this question usually comes first, it's normally one of the first questions they ask, and in my experience this is the kind of question where they want to hear about you as a person. The time for talking about yourself as an employee and a worker can come later. Take this time to talk about you and your hobbies and your interests, because it will really help to break the ice and will help you feel more comfortable and help the interviewer see you as a person rather than just a worker. The next question that is super common is, why would you like to work for this company? Or why did you apply for this job? This is where you start to talk about yourself as a worker and as an employee. Make sure you keep this specific with this particular company and this particular job. And that's pretty much it. This question is pretty self-explanatory. Another question they might ask you in an English-speaking job interview is, tell me about your experience. Again, this is a specific question. When they ask about your experience, make sure you only tell them about relevant experience. So this is them asking about your specific experience that will help you with this job. Another very common question you might get asked is, can you give me an example of ... And this could either be, can you give me an example of a time where you had to work as a team? Or can you give me an example of a time where you succeeded? Or can you give me an example of a time where you failed? Now these, I think, are the hardest ones because you have to suddenly think of a time and nothing might come to mind straight away. So it's always good to have some examples ready to go. So before you go to that job interview, have an example of a time where you succeeded, a time where you failed, a time where you had to work as a team, a time where you had to meet a deadline. You know, a few examples of useful times in your job life that you can use if you're asked a question like this. Because otherwise you are just going to be sat there for 5 minutes going, there was that time when I was in, have some examples ready and you'll be absolutely fine. And the final common question that you might get asked in an English-speaking job interview is, what could you bring to this role? Now, this is the question that a lot of people answer in the tell me about yourself section. So this is specifically where you talk about your qualities as an employee. So if you are a very organized person, this is the time to talk about it. You know, what skills do you have that will be useful in this role? Again, have some characteristics ready before you go to the job interview so that you can just fire them off. So obviously those job interview questions are quite general and quite generic, but they do come up in a lot of different job interviews. Obviously, if you're going to be a doctor, they will ask you some industry specific questions, or I hope they would ask you some industry specific questions, but I can't list them all in this video, otherwise this video would be 4.5 hours long, and no one wants to listen to me talk for that long. Finally, I'm going to give you some job interview buzzwords. Now, these are words that are really good to use in a job interview. So try to learn these and use them in your answers. They're just really good words that interviewers like to hear. Okay, buzzword number 1, we have motivated. Now, with this word, along with a lot of other words, you can put the word self in front of it and make it self-motivated. This means that you motivate yourself. You don't need a boss or a colleague to motivate you. You do it for yourself. You can also do this with a word like disciplined. You can make that self-disciplined. Again, you don't need a boss to discipline you or a colleague to discipline you. You discipline yourself. Another good buzzword is driven. Driven is quite similar to determined. It means you have a focus and you are good at achieving your goals. And you can also put other words in front of driven, like results driven, which means you are driven, you are motivated by results. Or you could say something like people driven. You are motivated by and you are focused on people. Or something like process driven. So you are motivated by and focused on the process rather than the end result. Another good buzzword is team worker, meaning you work well as a team. We also have problem solver, means you can solve problems. We also have adaptable, and this just means you are able to change your attitude or your process based on changing surroundings. Similar to adaptable, we have flexible. Another good word is initiative, which is something you take. So I take initiative. And that means you don't wait for someone else to tell you what to do. You do it on your own. We also have passion. It's a good word to put in there. And 2 phrases which are really nice to use is I can offer or I can contribute. So again, that's like what you can give to this company. So there we are. I hope that's been useful in preparation for your job interview. I'm guessing you're you're watching this because you have a job interview soon, so I hope it goes well. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please press subscribe and give it a like. And if you would like a one-to-one English lesson with me, the link for that is down in the description below, and also in the description is my Instagram where I post English learning content. Thanks again for watching. Ta-ta!